Welcome in. We appreciate you being here. I'm Thomas Hare. I'm the Chief Content Officer of the Performance Driven Marketing Institute, a not-for-profit trade association serving folks in the performance-driven and direct-to-consumer marketing industries. On behalf of our CEO, John Yarrington, and the rest of the PDMI team, we're thrilled to welcome you here at PDMI East. Really happy to see all of you here. We'd like to thank the Eden Rock Miami, and particularly the two gentlemen who just brought the chairs, for their assistance this week. We hope you're having a good time at the show. Hope you're having a positive experience with the hotel. This is our 4th year at the hotel. We're back for a 5th year next year. And I'm sure they're going to hit us up to try to bring us back for a 6th year just after this show. That's how things work. So I'd like to thank our team for working so hard to make the event happen. You know, we have a tight-knit team of four regulars, and then we bring on another 3 for our shows. And we've been doing these shows together now, if you go back before PDMI, for almost 20 years. And it's been the same kind of 7 or 8 of us. And it's a wonderful group. And John and I are very thankful for their assistance. So. We'd also like to thank our 130 member companies and more than 30 sponsoring companies for their support, including Blue Water, which is the sponsor of this week's educational sessions. We couldn't do any of this without our sponsors, and the Blue Water team has shared some videos to play at the start of each session, and here is one now.
At Tommy John, a lot goes into our underwear before you do.
But now I've found my bubbly side with SodaStream.
Philips air fryer is the original and the very best.
So thank you, Blue Water, for your assistance and your sponsorship. We appreciate it. Before we get started, finally, we really want to thank you again, all of you, for being here, for buying badges. It's badged attendees and sponsors and members that make this work. Without that level of support, we could never do this. So thank all of you for doing that and being here. I'm excited to kick things off with our Media Outlet Roundtable. It's one of our traditional, most important sessions. It's a group today that has got an array of thought leadership from all the different facets of the TV business. We're excited to have them here. Cristina Ferruggiari of Lockard and Wechsler is here to host and moderate. I'm going to turn it over to you.
Perfect.
Thanks.
Thank you so much. Can everyone hear me okay? Am I working? Okay, perfect. So thank you, everyone, for joining us this morning, starting your day with us. We really appreciate it. We're looking forward to having a really productive and insightful discussion. I'm excited to be moderating along with 3 extraordinary leaders across the performance video space. To give you a little bit of a taste of what we're going to touch on today within our discussion, we're going to go through what we've seen over the past 12 to 18 months across the performance video marketplace, new trends that we're seeing in tech, data, innovation, and we're going to make some bold predictions for what we think the future brings, the near future as well as the extended future, so 2025 and then looking forward into 2026. So I'll pause for a minute. I want our amazing panelists here to get the chance to introduce themselves to you, give you a little sense of their role in the marketplace. And so we'll kick it off with Maria.
Okay, my name's Maria Kennedy. I know a few of you here, but I don't know some of you. I've been in the business for over 30 years. I started my career at Discovery, where I spent most of it. We introduced video on demand at that time, and it evolved into an absolute monster. And I also have worked at FETV, and I'm currently the president of performance marketing at Allen Media Group.
These chairs are not made for
Kaitlin, no, they're not. They're too far back.
I'm Kaitlin Stebbins, and I'm lucky enough to lead our performance sales team of a lot of great sellers, 3 people in here today, at Samsung Ads. Samsung Ads is the advertising arm of Samsung Electronics, a little company that creates smartphones and smart TVs. And we really utilize that ecosystem to connect brands with engaged audiences.
Hey everybody, Mark Sullivan. I head up the performance team with Paramount. Excuse me, which we go across CBS broadcast, sports on CBS, Paramount Plus, Pluto, and then a number of cable channels, 21 cable channels to be exact, from MTV Classic, which you probably maybe have never heard of, that still runs videos, all the way through Comedy Central and Jon Stewart back on The Daily Show. And I'm celebrating my 20th anniversary at Paramount next month.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Dating myself, but when I started, Carson Daly was still doing TRL at MTV. So now he's on Today's Show. Ever since then, probably.
Okay, awesome. Thank you, guys. So with that context, let's kind of kick it off. From a logistics standpoint, if you have questions, amazing. Let's save them to the end. We're going to do about 15 minutes of Q&A, so don't forget them. Questions are really important to keep the conversation going. So to kick us off, guys, I want to kind of start with a pulse check on where you see the performance video marketplace today. From where you sit in your current roles, what have you seen happen over the past 12 to 18 months that's really interesting to you, or things that performance marketers and brands should really be aware of?
Kick it off, yeah. I would say for us, the increase of premium digital video budgets coming through incremental to linear. In the last couple of years, we've seen, for my team, the split had been a couple of years ago 75% linear, 25% digital video, streaming. And the next couple of years, we're going to be probably about 50-50. And again, it's been incremental digital spend to linear. We had a new advertiser come on this quarter, in the first quarter, that had not done any streaming with us before, or very little years ago, and came in and laid down a January budget, loved the results, and doubled it in February, doubled it again in March. So it's been some pretty significant growth over the last 5 years, but the last year or so has been a big increase. But again, it's been incremental to linear. I would say.
Have you seen a lot of that as a shift from those that are buying traditional linear who are starting to dip a toe into streaming as an incremental play, or sort of net new coming to you on the streaming side that's sort of balancing out?
A little bit of both,
Okay.
but more so traditional jumping into streaming. Currently, and 2/3 of our, this is what I was going to say, talk about at the end, but 2/3 of our advertisers that currently run on linear are not spending anything in digital. So obviously, that's where we see the a large growth as they come over incremental to linear.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Kaitlin, from a CTV focused streaming standpoint, what have you seen over the past year and a half?
I think we're in a good space. I think the industry as a whole is shifting more towards performance. I say us as in this team and this room that we're in a good space. I think as there's some economic uncertainty, we'll see people looking to tightening their wallets and looking for efficiency plays. And Samsung ads as a whole has really gone all in on performance. I think we're answering the call from the marketplace, and 2025 is the year of performance. We keep saying, hey, yeah, we're here. We know what we're doing in this space, but we're continuing to develop products that serve the needs of performance advertisers. And I think we're seeing ourselves more as a full funnel marketing solution. Still seeing CTV has its place within awareness, but we know that CTV can drive conversions as well.
Yeah. So it's a great lead into my follow-up question for you. So CTV, sort of upper funnel awareness running alongside linear. How have you seen in the performance environment marketers translate that upper funnel into lower funnel performance on Samsung?
Yeah, I think the proof is in the pudding, right? That's what our team does day in and day out. We're focused on performance, and we know that it works. I guess the slight change too that we're seeing is with brands seeing saturation in Meta, Snapchat, TikTok. They're shifting budgets away from there and looking for other outlets, and we're answering that call, specifically brands that are looking for CPA or CPI, CPA channels. We're here to provide that for them.
Okay, great. Maria, can you give us a little bit of perspective from where you sit at Allen Media Group across your traditional, broad scale of network channels, as well as local now and what's happening in streaming as well?
Absolutely. I think with the availability of data in the last year, it's made a big difference in buyers' ability to be able to buy across multiple platforms. And for us, I mean, it goes from our broadcast channels to our cable channels to our syndicated opportunities. We're seeing people really get a much better understanding that allows them to get better outcomes across the board.
Is there an area within your channel mix across linear or local now that you're seeing a specific lean in or focus on? Or would you say that performance marketers are starting in one place and starting to branch out across your entire portfolio?
I mean, still the main focus for us is linear, but we are seeing a much bigger focus on like our HBCU sports streaming service and local now. We have over 200 channels within local now, and we're also seeing buyers ask for localization within those 200 channels. Oh, you know what? I can't buy the 200, but do you have these 20 markets available? And you know, I think that, again, helps them target specific areas where if people don't have national budgets, we can help them spend their local budgets that way. Yeah. And that's not even just on local now, but we can also do that, and I'm jumping ahead to later, but we can also do it on our national cable networks as well. We're doing a test with an insurance company on the Weather Channel now, and they're asking for 15 specific states. And you would have never thought, wow, we can deliver just 15 states? And the answer is yes. So everything is changing, and I think it just allows us to be able to be better partners with everyone here.
Yeah, I think that's so important from an agency perspective. And this kind of leads nicely into our next topic on smaller D2C brands, digital first brands, but those that are looking to test into the space at somewhat lower levels or understand the incrementality, the ability to pair both national, local plays, be very precise about how we run and measure it, I think is really an important component.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So diving in, D2C brands, smaller challenger brands that are coming to you, digital first brands, Kaitlin, that you mentioned, who may, you know, live in meta, have saturated that environment, are now trying to get into upper funnel TV and video. What do you see that they're coming to you in the marketplace for today? What are some of their specific asks, knowing that they're very focused on, you know, mid-lower funnel with some of their social platforms? How do they translate that into an upper funnel environment, and how are those asks, you know, changing the way you're going to market from a performance TV standpoint?
I mean, I think there's still a component of performance there, specifically any brand that has a mobile app and they're looking to generate user acquisition or in-app purchases. That's something we're seeing a lot of that transfer of that Meta TikTok spend coming into looking for us to help drive user acquisition. And so we're answering that call with machine learning algorithms, pairing that with our first-party data to target users across our ecosystem who are more likely to convert. I know, like, AI, right, is the buzzword probably of the end of last year and into this year, but yeah, utilizing AI and machine learning algorithms to really make those budgets work harder and longer for advertisers to find their target audience.
I mean, I would say for us, we have culture-defining content across broadcast, Paramount Plus, Pluto, cable. Again, like I said, Jon Stewart's back. I mean, the news and politics of the last year or so is insane. Jon Stewart left Apple and came back to Comedy Central. He's doing on Monday nights, I believe. But as an example, so for us, content is king. Will always remain king. It's quality over quantity for us. I'm sure you've all heard of Taylor Sheridan Universe, Tulsa King, Mayor of Kingstown, and of course Yellowstone. So interesting. I think Dave was mentioning that. I'll mention Arrival here, but the show Paradise that was on Hulu, just aired on ABC last night, and we did that. We did that with Yellowstone during the writer's strike. So Yellowstone airs on Paramount Network, which is a cable network for us. And we put it on CBS seasons. We started season 1 to see how it would do, but it was gangbusters. So it delivered on average. So then come up to season 5B, which just aired on Paramount Network, back on cable. It delivered 7 times performance for our advertisers than in a normal show, right? So content is king, and it could be. I was watching the NCAA. We have the NCAAs on CBS last night, which I'm sure that game did gangbusters, came right down to the wire. And a top performance advertiser is a sponsor, like Billboard and everything. So it is, it doesn't, they start out probably smaller spends with the D2C ones, and they're able to build up. And we see probably, if we had a couple success stories a year, a couple years ago, we're in the teens now of brands building and building from starting lower funnel, but hitting that content, and it all comes back down.
Yeah, and following the viewer where they are, understanding the content that resonates for your specific target, and not just saying, hey, we're going to live in one world linear. We're also going to think about where that content lives in streaming and potentially the cross-platform play that has. Yeah.
Yeah, I think so. A couple of stats: 88% of our streaming is on TV glass, right? And 45% of our streaming dollars are incremental to linear. Streaming reach is incremental to linear. Yeah.
So you're seeing two very different, for the most part, audiences of the way people are pulling in Paramount content. It's really interesting.
TV is TV, right?
Yeah.
It doesn't matter. You're watching it. It doesn't matter where or what. And sometimes you don't even know.
Yeah, the consumer's not going to say, I streamed that.
Right.
Watched it on TV.
We have certain D2C advertisers who air on non-rated networks, like an MTV Classic, all the way up through the NCAA, like the full
gamut.
storytelling across all of it. Yeah,
Yeah.
the full gamut.
It's amazing. Maria, and on the Allen Media Group side, what are you seeing specifically on D2C asks? Smaller spenders, are there call to action overlays that you're putting into market? Is there anything unique that's kind of happening in that space for you?
We're not doing any type of overlays, but we are trying to, like I said, do more customization with targeting specific markets and being able to, leverage our smaller networks against our bigger networks. When we do our syndication buys, they're in over 90% of the country, right? 90% of the broadcast. But what we also do is we mirror those buys on two of our biggest cable networks. So not only are you getting over 90% of the country in broadcast, but you're also getting mirrored airings on two of our biggest cable networks. So we're trying to really leverage all of our assets together and help our customers succeed that way. And not only can we do it on our two bigger networks, we can also say, hey, we can also throw in some of our smaller networks as well. So we're really trying to, give the customer the best value that we possibly can, because let's face it, right? It's all about that. We need to make sure that, Kaitlin said it earlier, it's still all about performance, right? And while we want, performance, we also want efficiency, and we want to provide value to our customers.
Yeah, efficiency drives performance.
Exactly.
It's the very first thing we start with.
That's right.
And being nimble to be able to move a toggle across the portfolio, I think is really important for marketers to actually put the money where they're getting the most value for that dollar, especially with the smallest spends.
And know your audience.
Then once you find that,
growing.
you can scale from there.
Yeah. I mean, knowing your audience is so important, and being able, like you said, to be nimble and have the flexibility to, hey, what do you need? Oh, I can do that. No, I can't do that, but I can do this. I think it's so important, and people know of all of us that, we're going to try our hardest to make sure that you succeed, because when you succeed, we succeed.
Yeah, we love that. It's a good partnership.
I mean, in my household, we watch a lot of sports and news, and obviously I'm in the industry, so I pay attention to the commercials, and I cannot believe, and I cannot believe how many, no, I'm happy, but I'm always like, and my kids will call out, oh, is that one of yours, Dad? The commercials on sports and news for linear, specifically is what I'm speaking about here, it's unbelievable. It's I would say regional sports networks too, it is half performance in there, so it has to be working. There's many ways to get into people's homes.
Yeah.
And
the eyeballs
so
are, the responses, news and sports are really driving that, especially in linear.
A shout out to Paramount here, but CBS has the White Lotus delivered finale on Sunday, delivered I think 6.5 million or 8.5, something like that. 6.5. Right, so not ad supported. CBS ad supported has 10 10 million viewers for 10 of the top 20 shows in broadcast CBS with 10 million viewers. So it's obviously that's
No
important.
scale's
It's an
there.
important scale.
Yeah.
And I'll go, and I will say also with broadcast, if you look at CBS, NBC, ABC, Fox, 5 years ago, maybe a little more, you didn't see too many performance advertisers in there.
Yeah, we
Right?
talked a little
And-
bit about this.
and
I think this is
direct
really
response advertisers. And
interesting.
If you
It's
watch,
like a
if you,
shift.
you know, check out the broadcast networks now. Again, I won't say it's 50%, but it's definitely much higher than it had been previous to COVID.
Yeah. Do you think that's as a response to where viewership is trending across cable entertainment into broadcast network?
Yeah, probably a little bit older,
Yeah.
right? Disposable income going to act on that.
Yeah.
I would say.
But I think we're watching TV Plus on Samsung, but then, you know, Fubo or like other streaming apps, there's performance brands there too, which is, I think it's just great to see that we have a seat at the table.
Yeah.
I mean, like, and there's room for everybody to play.
Yeah. So it's kind of the golden question, I think, that a lot of times we get as agency partners, and we're constantly thinking about for our brands, but what is the right mix of linear and streaming? How are performance brands leveraging both channels? Are there unique KPIs for each channel? How do they play together? So I'd like to dive in a little bit with each of you on the ways that you see that coming to fruition in the marketplace, how you're helping some of your brand partners and your agency partners plan for that right level of mix and measuring outcomes across the different, you know, parts of the TV ecosystem, because they do act a little bit differently. We talked a little bit about this last night. The traditional TV viewer tends to respond and act differently than the traditional streaming viewer. And melding those two metrics, you know, how does that work in partnership with some of your agency partners and brand partners in the marketplace?
We're going to start this way.
Sure. I think that in speaking with a lot of clients about this, asking them the question, the answer varies. Some of them are looking at TV in totality. They're looking at their CTV and their linear together, and they are sort of meshing those outcomes and delivering it that way to the client, sort of like it used to be with the old 800 number or old vanity numbers, where okay, we're delivering this one number from CTV and linear. And I guess some clients really like that, and they want that answer that way because they don't care where the leads come from. They just want to deliver a quality lead. Where other clients are so performance focused, where they need to separate their outcomes from linear and CTV. And linear, you know, we can deliver the longer lengths on linear, right? So for us as performance marketers, it's going to be so much easier because there's more availability, there's different spot lengths, there's a whole bunch of things that we could deliver on linear that we can't deliver so much on CTV. So I think it's definitely better still for most performance marketers on linear. Again, it's because of price and availability and different spot lengths. But CTV is coming up, and they are, there's going to be a 50-50 mix. And I think it's going to be sooner than we think. But I think your challenge as agencies is how do I take that 120 and make it work in a 15 or a 30 or a 60 on the CTV platform? So again, I think it depends on who the advertiser is. Is it a performance marketer, or is it more of a hybrid advertiser?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I think we talked a little bit about this yesterday. I think the idea of the fluidity concept can work for some brands. It really depends on, you know, the creative asset is incredibly important, who you're trying to reach and what your KPI is. So when we think about it from an agency perspective, we're laying out, you know, the groundwork of what does this plan look like? How do we need to measure it? And in some cases, fluidity can work if it's driving directly to a web lead only, right? There's a common KPI across channel. But when you're thinking about toggling longer unit lengths, call volume expectations relative to web lead expectations, you might need a different mix, and you might need the channels separate, but also look at the performance holistically.
Which
So
means
I think
it's bought
it really,
differently, right?
Correct.
It'll be bought differently, but it can
Yeah.
be reported potentially.
reported the same.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're always looking at the cumulative total performance campaign delivery, but the way we execute across each of the channels may be a little bit different based on the audience we're trying to reach and the way we're bringing, that plan together. But in some cases, there are brands where the lead is the lead, and we want to think about things really fluidly, and so fluidity deals come into play.
Absolutely.
But I think the ability to customize that with partners, through our partnerships with you, is really important to actually deliver upon the brand's KPIs relative to just a one-size-fits-all, solution. Kaitlin, from a streaming focus perspective, you're not playing in both worlds. You're executing in streaming only. How have you worked with brands that maybe have challenges on the linear side or trying to bring in a broader CTV focus to balance where Samsung fits, within their mix, whether that's through your tools to look at incremental reach, et cetera? Like, how do those two things kind of come together for you?
Yeah, I mean, because we own the glass, right, we can see not only can we see what people are watching from a streaming aspect and Samsung TV Plus, like our free ad-supported streaming app, but we can see what they're watching linear, and we're starting to be able to see in-app action. So I think just the sheer ability to provide insight into that, right? Like our research and analytics team, they put out a white paper I think it was 4 years ago that said that you should have at least 40% of your budget within streaming. And, Maria just mentioned it's more 50-50 at this point, but I think, yeah. So I think, just being able to provide that level of insight as well as do our best to help to connect the dots in terms of ad exposure and conversion is really important for us to be able to dig into.
Because you're on the glass of the TV, do you see a big use case for people leveraging your data set to actually, let's call it, suppress somebody who's seen a linear TV ad and drive incrementality in streaming to make sure they're reaching net new or competitive conquest off that data? How does that kind of come to life in the way those two platforms play together?
Yeah, I think that's like you just mentioned. I mean, I don't think sometimes it's a nice to have. Certainly it increases price, when you start utilizing first-party data. So maybe we use that for more insights planning as opposed to actually targeting. But yeah, we can do competitive conquesting, retargeting, suppression, as well as for the mobile app specific type stuff. We've been looking at again, using machine learning algorithms and bumping that up against our first party data, essentially look-alike modeling, but utilizing our first party data to make it smarter.
That's great. Mark, from your standpoint, we had such a cool conversation yesterday on attribution. So when we think about cross-platform activation, what are you seeing from the marketplace on attribution needs and how people are coming to you across, linear versus streaming, the outcomes that they're measuring? Is it typically proprietary measurement?
Exactly, it is
Third-party measurement?
Yeah, I mean, we don't, I would say that at this conference that we're the experts here. You guys are the experts here from an agency standpoint and an attribution standpoint. We're doing a lot. Paramount, but more for the brand, the brand, national brands. On attribution standpoint, which they've never had that. Paramount is performance was our upfront tagline last year, and we just came out. We partnered with iSpot recently in the last week or so, and announced outcomes at scale attribution model. But again, that is more for
the brand side.
The brand side. That is for the brand side.
Yeah.
I would say it's really everybody. Here, or in the performance world, are getting results. The national side, the brand side, wishes they could get results
as fast
like that.
Yeah.
And I would say, as an industry, we've done an amazing job in that front. But I think a lot of it does. I think the more we get down the road of premium digital video, the more it looks a lot like linear. And what I mean by that is price.
Yeah.
We could, we always hear a lot about how you're able to target and it's great, and on the digital side, which is you can't get that targeting necessarily on the linear side, but it does increase your CPM, right? It doesn't. I think you just mentioned price, right? So, what are you from an agency standpoint and from an all digital standpoint? Are you seeing more programmatic PMP targeted buys at the higher CPMs? We're seeing more direct buys.
I would say we're seeing more direct buys. The pricing efficiency is there on direct, but there's a role for programmatic in our mix. And we talked a little bit about this yesterday. for performance marketers, we think it's really important to think about how data segments stack up on your rates, because our bottom line rate is that driving that efficiency is the most important thing for us to drive return, profitable return. So the more we stack these data segments, there's a lot of testing that has to happen of, is there value to that segment? Is it paying out at the same rate as a direct buy may, that may come at a lower cost? I think from a inventory standpoint, the biggest thing we're seeing is that there's a lot more opportunity in streaming. And so that opportunity for increased ad support, which didn't exist, 12 plus months ago, where a majority of the marketplace wasn't ad supported, is opening up more competitive pricing, better availability of inventory, and also better targetability of inventory. And it's a matter of how we test each of those frameworks to understand what drives the better profitability for our performance.
I guess, look at the last 5 years. I mean, Paramount Plus is 2021 we launched.
Yeah.
Netflix, 23, maybe?
Yeah.
Amazon was just a year ago, right? So
Yeah,
it's all,
Amazon was last January.
it's a lot more
A lot
impressions
more
out there.
opportunity, yeah. And then to your point, just talking about the mix of linear advertisers versus streaming, there's such an opportunity to dip a toe and learn in that space. I think we all agree we're headed to a 50-50 hybrid world. What does that look like for everyone's mix? There has to be an opportunity to test and understand how each of the platforms play relative to your brand KPIs. So let's dive a little bit into innovation. I want to talk a little bit about what's happening across both linear and streaming, from new ad formats to tech that's being released to new tools that are in market that can help performance marketers make some of these really big decisions on what is the right level of my mix, what are areas I should be leaning into to drive further engagement with audiences and maybe cluttered environments, differentiating ad formats. Kaitlin, can you kind of kick us off from a Samsung standpoint, thinking about native ads on the home screen, interactive opportunities? Typically, those were really at a higher price point for brand marketers. How are we seeing that translate, into performance activation?
Yeah, we're excited about, we've seen brands really lean into our first screen native ad units that are exclusive to Samsung, and we worked really hard to make those available to performance advertisers. My colleague Dan is speaking tomorrow, and he's, I would say, an expert on it, has really leaned into it. His clients have leaned in. And we've seen pairing those ad units with CTV is really a powerful combination. Like, some of the stats are, over 50%, I think it's 50% increase in unaided brand recall, as well as brand lift when pairing those together. So we're really trying to make it, more available, more accessible, trying to convince our finance teams to make all the cool, flashy ad units more available to performance marketers.
Yeah, we try to help with that where we can. Yeah. Because I think on the aspect of the non-ad supported users, it's such a unique way to reach them at the start of a content journey. So it does give you that bump of, like, you're hitting the ad supported user in Samsung TV Plus, but you're also grabbing them at the home screen when they want to go to watch something that they may not be ad supported. Yeah. So there's a nice commonality, a duality to it.
I'll just add, like, for us, recently, this year, commerce, second screen, shoppable is where we're heading. We've got a couple of test partners recently. We want to take that, take the ad off. As I said, 88% of our streaming is TV glass, right? We want to take the ad off that TV glass and then put it in your phone. Yeah. To learn more about the product, sign up, purchase. And we just kind of started dipping our toe into that. Yeah. And agencies/clients are starting to as well.
That's great. Yeah. Maria, from a tech standpoint, audience targeting, we talked a little bit about this yesterday, but what are the partnerships that the Allen Media Group is really leaning into?
So we're just starting to dip our toe into tech. We are certainly not as advanced as Samsung or Paramount, but like I mentioned earlier, with audience targeting and being able to target specific areas and dive that deeply into zip code. We can even get down to the zip code level on our local now platforms. As far as, that is our tech where we're able to, again, target down to the zip code for whatever clients' needs are across the entire U.S. On over 200 stations.
Yeah. and thinking about how the audience overlay can apply to both linear as well as to
Absolutely, and
streaming.
we have platforms where, you know, we run football games on our HBCU streaming service. We also run them on our cable network and also across our syndicated platforms. So it's sort of like the old school roadblock concept, where we're able to touch every part of the media landscape with all of those three.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. Okay, let's jump a little bit into the future. Let's talk about the road ahead. Let's make each of us make one big prediction for 2025. Or really, let's think about 2026. Let's go a little bit farther ahead. We're sort of almost halfway through the year. I feel like it'll come sooner than we think. Couple of bold takes on that. Do we see more automation coming into play within performance marketing? More AI, machine learning coming into play? More commerce and content, more shoppable content? What do you each think would be your biggest prediction for what's ahead that we should all be aware of and be prepared for when we're thinking about our performance video strategies? Kick us off.
Am I kicking
Maury?
it off?
Who wants to kick us off?
That's a lot right there.
I know.
I don't really love predictions, but yeah, no, AI is something we haven't touched on. I think that, we touched on it a little bit, but from a creative standpoint, I think that will be interesting to see. You know, I think we mentioned earlier the barriers to entry to get on linear, to come from these digitally native social brands, come over to streaming and linear. The barriers to entry are much lower than they've ever been, right? And part of that could be the cost of a creator. And what can AI provide from a cost perspective to allow these brands. My team laughs at me because I've said this 1,000 times recently, but if we all pulled our phone out and went on Instagram, we would see on our feeds hundreds of advertisers who are only on Instagram or pick the social platform, and they have not come over to linear, they have not come over to streaming. That to me is a tremendous opportunity for everybody at this conference. Agencies and publishers, right? Attribution partners, everybody. There's thousands of advertisers that will, in my opinion, will come over in the next 6, 12, 18 months to performance, right? They're not going to go initially, at least the big brand route. Like, look, take I have not mentioned one advertiser here, but I'll mention one because it was just the news for being bought for just under $2 billion. Poppy, which is a soda, probiotic soda, right? Soft drink that I think debuted on. I'm rambling now. I thought that you were going to cut me off.
That's okay. I like when you ramble.
I think it debuted on Shark Tank in 2017, 2018, and under a different name. They rebranded, went the performance route, started across, non-rated cable networks and all the way up, and I'm only mentioning that brand because of again, they just got sold to Pepsi, right?
Pepsi, yeah.
It's just it's an interesting from where they started to where they ended up.
Yeah.
And I think, in my opinion, there's those brands are living on all our phones right now, and those brands should be coming over
To the big screen.
So.
I agree. Kaitlin, what's your big prediction?
I guess using similar thought process of like our phones, there's an app for everything, right? Like we live and breathe using apps to drive, to buy groceries, what have you, every part of our life. And I think we've only just scratched the surface of in terms of CTV advertising. Like if you're a brand that has an app and you're looking to drive user acquisition or in-app purchases, don't sleep on CTV. Like it is, while yes, it may have been thought of as more of a branding awareness play, we know that it drives conversions and results. And then the other thing, I think what Samsung is really thinking about is how do we drive more interaction with the user within an ad break, right? Like, I think we all know that, you use the ad break, I gotta go pee, or I gotta go do this, or I gotta go check the dinner or whatever. But we wanna engage users during the ad break. So we're looking to create like low-lift, casual gaming experiences within ad breaks where you can utilize your phone to play like a trivia game or some sort of interactive low lift game to make sure that people stay engaged, and then that provides a seamless experience for brands to insert their video within that as well.
Yeah, underutilized space.
And I think with all of the automation and data that we're seeing will come more efficiencies. But with those efficiencies, I think that we need to have more transparency and accountability. And to make sure that the data that we're getting, you're getting, is correct, and that you can track it back to leads. I think that is most important moving forward. And also, some of the things I'm seeing are a little bit of a throwback where, agencies are creating content. They're creating full programs that are relevant, like say a weather-related program or something like that. And they're also incorporating some of their clients into that show. So content creation, you're seeing more of it, and it is also a way to break through the clutter. So I think that is the future, is accountability and finding ways to break through the clutter.
Yeah, get out of the ad pod.
Exactly.
Get into the content, make it really contextually relevant.
That's right.
I like your point on data too. I'm a big proponent of data.
And you have to have it, right? Automation, and eventually, maybe everybody will be on one system and we can transact that way, the way it's done in digital, programmatic. So the future is here, it's coming to all of us.
Yeah, faster than
and like you said, we need to be flexible and nimble and go with it, evolve.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you, guys. So I want to leave at least 15 minutes for any questions and answers. We covered a lot, so I'll open it up to you guys. Any questions?
Here we go.
Long.
Hey, Long Ellis with Denali TV. I've got a question on the linear side. So in digital, it's really easy to target audiences, right? That's the benefit of digital. In linear, it's this strange dynamic where the agencies have all this amazing attribution data. Some agencies are sophisticated to the point where they can track attribution by quarter hour within linear day parts. What are the TV networks or the TV publishers doing to help target the performance ads in linear? Because the agencies have all this data, but they have no means to basically place their ads in the highest performing programs. So are you using time constraints? Or what are you doing to help the agencies target their ads in linear as opposed to just running them through broad rotations? Do you understand what I'm asking?
Yes. I mean, I would say the first thing that we could do from a linear perspective is listen. What are our clients telling us that they need? Do they need to be in a specific day part or program? Can we sell them that day specific ad? Can we give them something else that they need? But I think that for us, from our perspective, because we don't have that data, I think our best weapon is to listen what they're asking us to do, and execute as best we can. We have no tech on our end, and Mark, you correct me if I'm wrong, but
Yeah, no, we go off, we listen and go off what our agency partners tell us. A lot of it comes down to relationships. And yes, we want to marry advertiser creative with what works best for them in a show, in a time period. I mean, most of what we write on the cable is ROS, right? But if there's, we will time constrain, but then just like targeting on digital, that raises the price.
and if it's Monday morning at 10 a.m. that works best for you, that's your best outcome, then that's our best outcome.
Yeah.
So we're going to give you that spot if that's available.
And and then supply and demand, as always, comes into play.
Yeah.
Because that might be the best spot for everybody, right? So.
Yeah, I would add from an agency perspective, I know you asked for our publisher perspective, but we think about, within our proprietary attribution, looking at where we're seeing the highest response in linear. We want linear to work the same way digital works as a performance vehicle. So understanding where the response is at the most granular level we can get, whether that's the program level, the half-hour level, we need to take that response data and translate that into activation and market. That is the way we're using, that's our engagement layer. That's how we know that the program had the viewership and we saw the response. And so making sure that you take that data on the response side and translate that back into market is what's going to help you not only hit the performance, but scale your performance. That's the way we think about it in partnership with each of our publishing partners on the linear side and, of course, on the digital side. A little bit more automated, but that's our approach.
We got another one right here.
Thank you, guys. Michael Weinstein with Jam Direct. So even today, and this is going on, over the past few years, but I haven't really seen it slow down. While watching streaming programs, CTV, in an area where you would expect to see an advertisement, a lot of times we see this, please enjoy the Zen music, there's 30 seconds of nothing. So my question is, I don't know, is that a demand issue, is it a rates issue, and are we gonna get to a point in CTV where they have kind of the linear equivalent of remnant rates and competitive lower opportunities to at least fill those blank spaces?
Yes. No, I mean, I think from our side, there's a business development team that is continuing to generate new content, right? Yes, they're looking at viewership and, they'll sunset channels, but, I think we know everybody's attention span is pretty low and quick to change the channel if they don't like what they're watching. So we're continuously trying to source new and interesting content that will engage the user. But to your point, there's a lot of supply out there. And I think, myself and our team, we're doing the best that we can to engage with all of you to fill that space. And also trying new and interesting products. I mean, we have a counterpart who's working with, a company called Pilot Desk, where you're trying to look at what's the optimal bid for all this inventory to maximize our yield, our revenue. But I think, yes, our goal is to continue to fill that. We also have to answer to pricing and planning. We have to generate a bottom line. But I think, we hear you, and we want to work with you all to fill that space.
I would say I'm equally as frustrated with that when I see that. I haven't seen that recently, but as a salesperson, that drives me nuts. That's like watching a linear channel and it go just to a blank screen. I honestly don't understand that, and I think I saw it more a couple years ago. I have not seen it recently, but I remember watching an NFL game or World Series, and that happened, and I'm like, how could that not be sold? Yeah. How could that sporting event not have been sold? But again, I have not seen that in a couple years. So I will say I'm not, not sure what you were watching there, but I'm sure it still exists out there, and that, as a salesperson, that would drive me nuts, and that does drive me nuts. And I think, in my opinion, that tech should put a promo in there. There should be something that's not. We'll be back in 30 seconds. That should not happen, in my opinion.
I agree. Makes me
the publisher should put a promo in there, something.
I agree as well. I don't think you should ever see blank screen. But Kaitlin, good point that, if there is a price integrity that we can't go below. So if they can't sell it, they should put a promo in, or maybe even an ADU if it's one of our properties.
I have a quick question. So, Kaitlin, you had mentioned about the native ad platform via streaming or CTV, and there was a 50% increase in brand recall lift. Can you go into a little bit more detail with that?
Oh, the first screen ad unit?
Yeah.
Yeah, so when you turn on a Samsung Smart TV, you'll see the depending on the year, but the setup is there's usually this little bar at the bottom. And you, as a brand, you can insert a logo and you can click on it. It can expand to a static image or a video. You can also click into that video, and then it could do a whole home screen takeover. But it's new in the sense that it previously was only available for an awareness play, and we opened it up to performance advertisers in the last year on a non-guaranteed preemptive basis. It's rotational, and we've really seen that it's the first ad that a user is exposed to when they turn on the TV before they start their streaming journey. So comparing that with an ad within Samsung TV Plus, just that solidification, reinforcing the brand messaging is how we've seen that that brand lift as well as unaided recall, continuing them down the journey.
So then, for the ad itself, let's just use Paramount, for example. Like, we wouldn't have like a children's toy be like the ad, like the advertiser can say, okay, we want this on Paramount, and so the ad that's going to be will be applicable to the audience who's most likely watching, right?
Sorry, what do you mean?
So for example,
Paramount?
if we're going to be watching CBS or whatever via my Samsung TV, the ad will be in line because of the audience. As an advertiser, I want to make sure that my ad is going to go to someone who's likely to respond. So the channel that it would be on would be applicable to what my audience would be watching, not like an arbitrary ad.
Once you go from the home screen to the specific
Yeah.
tile?
Or maybe I'm not thinking of the flow.
So the first screen ad unit is on all 72 million TVs, the Samsung.
When you turn it on, that's what you see.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
Okay.
And then the second part is within Samsung TV Plus, which is our free ad-supported app on the television. While you can watch Paramount or Hulu or whatever other app you want to watch on your Samsung TV, we don't put advertising within that. But yeah, we're not placing ads within the Paramount app.
But whatever ad's on the home screen, once you click into Samsung TV Plus, that would be the first ad you see?
Yeah.
Okay.
And that you can target within that,
Okay, thank you.
I know Roku seemed to have a lot of success with that initial screen. They've been speaking about that a lot as well, right?
Oh, we got one more.
Can you talk a little bit about what you're doing for agencies to be able to buy directly from your platforms? It used to be that you always had to go through a third-party vendor for CTV streaming. Now it seems like there's this ability for an agency to almost go direct with each of your platforms. Can you elaborate on that?
Me?
Mark? Yeah.
Paramount has their own ad. Do you see more of that coming out where agencies can get involved?
So like our SMB platform? Yes, that is one way to come through. That is not through our team, but yes, that is a division that was started, and I think a lot of media companies most media companies have an ad manager now, an SMB team. I think, was it Universal or Comcast announced?
Disney has theirs.
Yeah, so anyway, yes, SMB is one way to come through Paramount. I think that will be, when I mentioned these thousands of digitally native advertisers, I think a large portion probably will come through the SMB team across Pick the Media Company. And AI will play a role in that, everything we said will kind of roll into that. But it doesn't mean an agency has to go that way. They could come directly to our team as well. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, we're similarly we're building an ads manager as pretty much every other publisher. But so if you just want to use your credit card, you can have a smaller test budget, probably less than 10,000. That would probably be.
But there's the ability to go direct to you for direct IO.
Exactly.
Contract directly.
Or work
Old
through.
school way,
Yeah.
right? Or tap into your automated platform and buy it self-service.
Exactly.
Yeah.
All right, the last one here.
Hi, Angela Macri with Paramount. I have one question that I'm seeing, I guess, struggle in the marketplace from older advertisers on a linear space, older SKU demos, just to get into the CTV space. Just, I guess, is for you, Kaitlin. What are any techniques that you guys are using to get these 55-plus advertisers into your space? Because that's, I think, our biggest hurdle at Paramount, and wanted to see if you were doing anything different.
I mean, yeah, it's a challenge, right? And I just personally speaking, my own mother, she has this brand new beautiful TV, and then is telling me that she has to get something to plug into it in order to watch TV. And I'm like, no, you just use the TV as it is. But I think the 55 or 60 plus demo is our second largest demo. I think Dan actually told me that yesterday. So I think we're seeing more adoption, and also if you think about it, right, a lot of people bought new TVs during COVID, and you typically replace them every 4 to 5 years. So we're coming up on that time frame, and I think we're going to see an increase in that specific demo as more people start buying the newer model TVs. In terms of targeting them, I mean, we're probably using all the same methodology as you, whether it's audience targeting, genre targeting, or taking indexing channels against an audience. But fortunately, I think it's making the case and testing and learning. I feel very fortunate that this group of people, that this industry is open to testing and seeing how it goes. I'd like a little bit longer of a roadway, like more than a week for testing, but understand that we have to prove ourselves out.
I think the creative length that Maria mentioned too also plays a role. Like, how do we jump to linear, 55 plus jump from linear to streaming? How do you get a 120 on that?
We have a.
I mean, you can get them,
So
but
you
they're expensive.
okay.
You
So
just,
but the price
price
is
is,
budgetable.
price is jumping.
It's higher than your 15s and 30s, but I mean, you're looking like there's less ad space within streaming. I mean, that was a conscious choice in terms of the user experience. We have 4 ad pods per hour of 2 minutes each. So if you want to add that you want to own that whole ad pod, you got to pay for it. But
I think that will be interesting, and Dave will probably kill me for saying that.
I would love to see that.
That will be interesting in a couple years to see where that lands. Do we as an industry stick on that and say, yeah, it has to be this
Just
CPM?
like, and that CPM for the cost, or do you take your 120, try to figure out the best way to fit the messaging for
Maybe there's
response
another
into
way,
a 30,
price-wise.
right?
I don't
Yeah.
know.
It's toggle between the
Yeah,
two.
but if the ROAS is showing good numbers, who cares what you pay for that?
Well, that's
True.
But you
that's
have to be able to
performance
test it
marketing,
first.
right? If it works, at that rate, keep buying it.
Yeah. Good point. Yeah.
There has to be willingness to test at
Yeah.
that rate first to see if it pays out.
Yeah.
Right?
How about a round of applause for our group up here? Thank you, all of you. Really appreciate it.